So in this video, we're showing off the Limo One, and I want to show off at the beginning of this video what this thing can do on some serious sloped, rough terrain. So as you realize, this is not just your ordinary robot mower. Let's get to that. We're going to go over a lot of things in here. We're going to show unboxing it. I'm going to talk about the setup of this thing, and then ultimately we want to see it perform. And people say, Jason, why do you do these videos? Another robot mower. I think it's my 5th one I've reviewed. One, I think they're really cool. This one's especially cool, but my goal is I want to know if somebody's out there that is in the market for a robot mower. I want to not necessarily sell them this one or get them to buy this one. I just want them to know, like, is this the one for them or not? And so hopefully I can show you in this video what this one can do and what it won't do, so that you know, is this the right mower for you? Let's get started showing this thing in action. All right, so this is Limo One, and it's dirty because I've been using it. And what I want to show you is out in the distance here. Of course, we're going to get closer. There's a fairly steep bank. Now, I don't know if you can tell how steep it is from here, but that bank is something that I can't particularly mow with a zero turn and have to use a string trimmer on, and it's not very much fun. I want to see how Limo One is going to do on that bank over there. So let's start off with something a little bit easier. We're going to start on this bank before we get to even the more extreme bank. Now, I've downloaded the app. I'm going to go over all this, setting it up. I think really at the beginning of the video, it would be best to go ahead and show it in action before we show you some of the less exciting stuff. So I've downloaded the app. I've drew a map of my yard. Again, we'll go over that in a second. But in this particular situation, I just want to take control of the mower with my phone. I'm just going to drive it like a remote control car, basically, remote control lawnmower. And I'm going to drive it with the blades on and show it cutting this bank, and then we'll get to the more extreme bank. So let's get started. I've got a lot of settings here I can go over as I'm doing this. I can even tell how fast to go. So we'll go at 2 feet per second. Cutting height, we'll go to 2.5 inches. Blade speed, 4,000 RPM. All right, are you sure you want to open up? That means it's about to turn the thing on. Watch this thing tackle this hill. I'm talking about with ease going on this slope. We're going to get to a more aggressive slope here in just a minute. Watch, I'll go down the hill. I'm driving it with my phone. Why don't I just go down the hill? Why don't I just turn around and go straight up the hill? Now, just so you know, you don't have to drive it with your phone. I can have it programmed to cut this hill on its own, but for this purpose, I'm driving on my phone. Now, one of the things you'll notice is, one, this thing is pretty heavy, okay? So it's heavy duty made. It's not a lot of plastic and a little bit of metal. This has actually real lawnmower blades on here. So I've already dinged them up a little bit from I hit a rock on this bank. They can be removed and sharpened or replaced. You got these wheels that help it with the turning. And of course, the heavy duty tracks is going to help it on these hills. Those lawnmower blades are one of the things that's significantly different about this one versus many robot mowers. Many of them have small little razor blades, which are fine if you're just going through a finely manicured lawn, mowing it every 2 to 3 days. This one has actual lawnmower blades on there. So I don't want you to be misled and think that it's like the equivalent to a 60-inch zero turn mower as far as mulching leaves up and stuff. Same time, I don't want you to get it confused with a lot of robot mowers that just have the little razor blades. It's significantly more powerful and able to tackle a lot more significant jobs. A little stick in the way is not a big deal. Leaves are not a big deal. Now again, I'm not taking out there on a fall leaf cleanup job and going through 18 inches of leaves. That we're not trying to do that. I want to give you a realistic expectation of what this can be used for and what it is not used for. So on this particular hillside, again, I usually trim this with a string trimmer. It's not a pleasant experience. I do it 2 or 3 times a year. I wait till it gets tall. I do it. I've had my friend Paul James on here slipping and falling because it gets wet and it's just nasty. I'm going to take control of it again because this hill's got some rocks and stuff. I need to get it cleaned up. But eventually, I think I'd like to get it programmed where you can mow this hill every few days and keep it manicured. And I think it'll start to actually look more like a yard instead of a nasty hillside that doesn't get maintained. So let's put it on this hillside, very steep. I want to show you how it can go sideways across the hill, up and down on the hill. And also the grass is not manicured like cut every 2 or 3 days. This is some taller grass that doesn't get cut very often. So let's put it to work and see what it'll do. Go straight down the hill and then back up the hill. Now the point of that demonstration was just to show you this is not a toy. This thing will go over that hill, and just the thought, Limo taking care of that hillside and mowing that without having to use a string trimmer is just a beautiful thing. And I wanted you to see that it was not only going up the hill and holding traction on the hill, but it was also mowing some pretty nasty thick grass that, to be honest, a string trimmer can sometimes get a little bit bogged down in. And it was certainly easier me sitting there driving with a remote. Again, I can program it and have it just include that hill in part of the area that I'm covering. So now that we talked about that, let's get back to the basics. I want to talk about the setup of it. We're going to do some demonstration on just a normal manicured lawn. And ultimately, again, by the end of the video, hopefully can tell you, is this for you or not? Would it handle your property? Would it not handle your property? Or you may just be educating yourself on what it's about. So before you go to the end of the video, I just want you to know that there is a link in the description if you want to go check it out. But I've been very impressed with it, and I've been running this thing on my yard on a daily basis. Which might be the explanation of why my grass is looking so good right now, because when you mow your grass every day or two, and my yard's huge, another thing I like about this, it will cover a lot of area. But you can see it just mows these beautifully straight lines. Now our yards don't stripe here in the south. But anyway, let's talk about a setup of Limo, and then let's give it some more action and see how this thing's working. Now, as I was unboxing, one of the things that was great about it is I could just pull this out of the box. Now, one thing I did have to do, the battery compartment I want to show you is around here on the back. Again, this is heavy, so when you're moving around, it's pretty heavy. The battery compartment's back here. You can pop that off. You can actually slide the battery out, and if you wanted to change out the batteries, sorry, you got to push down a little tab, slide the battery out. Now, there is a little tab over here that comes disconnected from the factory, so you just have to connect this little cable to the battery and just pops on right there. So your battery just goes in right there, and this is an easy little snap in place kind of deal, and you just pop those tabs in, you're ready to go. Again, I think this is the 5th robot lawnmower that I have reviewed, so I've learned a little bit about them, and most of them are operating off this RTK satellite technology. So we're going to go show you how that sets up, and then we'll get into the actual app and how it functions. All right, so I want to go over the setup here. Here's our antenna, the RTK technology. Pretty simple setup as far as just having a stake in the ground is the way I've got it set up at the moment. It's got your antenna on there. So I got my charging station right here. So Limo will pull itself up here, and it's got metal contacts on the bottom of it that'll can recharge itself. Now, setting some of this up, some of it takes a little bit of work, and we'll get into the app in just a minute on how that works. So when you're, let me just go and give you an example. If I'm going to connect two parts of my yard and there's a driveway in between, then I'm going to create two different zones, and I want to have what they call a channel in between that. So the channel means that it's going to cross in that area, but it's going to turn the blades off. So when I'm setting up the app, I want to have Limo tell it where the charging station is and to be able to go to that. So there's a little bit of work in the app. So let me show you what that looks like in the app and how I've traced out my yard and what it actually looks like. So you can see what the app looks like. You want to go download that. And this, like most of the robot mowers I've dealt with, you connect it to your Wi-Fi network as well as to Bluetooth. You got my battery percentage, 88%, and you got your settings key there. You can go to all kinds of settings. So let me just say this, sometimes if you were to get an error message or it won't start mowing, you want to get it into what they call waiting state. So if it's doing something else, you can go in there and click reset task, and now you see there that it's waiting. So once in waiting mode, that's a good thing. So if I wanted to mow, then I'm going to go into the view map. Now to create a map, the way it works is you're going to take control of the mower, and I'm going to actually drive the mower around the perimeter of my yard. Now you can set up like no-go zones. Now you can see like I have a large area in my backyard that's totally separate from my front yard. Even the side yard is connected with a driveway or separated by a driveway. And you can even create like a zone within a zone, if you will. So like this is my big yard, but let's just say I wanted to just cut that small area. I can go in here and I can just hit select, and I can hit all or select. If I hit select, I can say, hey, I just want you to mow that part, and see it lit up green. I just want you to mow that part first, okay, or just that part. And then, or I can turn that off. Or if I hit all, then it's going to say, okay, I want to mow the whole yard. Now my yard's really big, so that's why I might, for my yard, I might say, hey, just go work on the back today, and it lit that up green, if that makes sense. Now one thing that's great is when you create a zone, you go in the app and you can set all kind of different settings for it, from the cutting height down to 1.2 inches. So I'm gonna go with 2 inches here. The speed of the how fast RPMs the blades are turning. So from 3,000 up to 5,000, I'm gonna leave it at 4,000, which is the default. Mowing speed, you know, I'm gonna leave it at 1.9, which I think the default. But if this is something that you were mowing every day and you wanted to mow faster, you can make it cut a little faster. The angle, pass spacing, like how much overlap are you going to get? We're going to go with the 13.8. And even the stripe angle, you can do the path order, like do you want it to go around the perimeter first and then start going back and forth, or just go start making back and forth passes. And if you do perimeter, you can have it go 1, 2, or 3 perimeter laps around. You can have it do the mode. You can have you can choose between zigzag, chessboard, or perimeter laps only. So there's a lot of different options when you set up a zone. You can go back and configure them later. You can select individual zones and customize it. So for instance, if I wanted to cut this type of grass over here was different, I wanted to mow it taller or shorter, I could go in and configure that individual zone. So a lot of options there for the configuration. And one thing I would just do personally when you go to set up a zone, go ahead and take the time to trace out the different trees and any kind of obstacle like that as a no-go zone. The cameras do work as far as being able to detect objects, but for peace of mind, I would trace it out and let it rely on the satellite technology to know exactly where to go and not to go. It doesn't take long within the app. Once you trace out the zone, then within the app, you can just drive the mower around this tree, for instance, and declare that as a no-go zone so it knows not to mow in that area. And personally, I would go ahead and trace out big trees or small trees. You know, think about a small tree. If it's like a small tree, Limo may not be able to differentiate between a tall weed and a small tree. So to me, just to be safe, I would trace out just about everything whenever you create the zone. Now, one of the features I love about this is that you can wash it off, and the waterproof features, and it has a plus sign on the back. So watch this. If I hold down this plus sign, so that's pretty cool. I can flip the deck up. Now I can take the hose and just clean it off real good. Then lower it back down, I hit the minus button on top of the deck and it lowers the deck back down. So Limo is rated for like 1.7 acres, I believe. So it's really a lot faster than some other robot mowers I've used. And while the cut, again, is not a 60-inch zero-turn cut, with the speed, and you can even adjust the speed. I've got it like on the middle grade as far as how fast the blades turn. That was where it was recommended, 4,000 RPM. And then if you were mowing your grass every day, you could have the actual mower go a little bit faster as far as actual ground speed. So it will cover a lot of ground in one day. I don't think it will cut my entire yard in one day, but I've got almost 3 acres. But again, compared to a lot of the other robot mowers on the market, this one covers a lot of ground. That's one of the things I really like about it. Other things we've already shown you, the actual real blades that can be taken off and sharpened and will cut significantly higher grass, as we just demonstrated, than many of the competitors out there. Another thing to mention, again, is just the heel stability. I think I've proven that well enough. But another thing that I didn't show, and I want to get to that now, is just the overall quality of cut. And yeah, I mean, if you cut your lawn every day with almost any lawnmower, it's probably going to look pretty good. But this just leaves such a nice quality of cut. And again, having real blades, I could probably go a little bit longer in between cuts if I wanted to. When I say longer, I'm talking about like 3 to 4 days if I wanted to, versus with the razor blades, I think you probably need to mow it every day or every other day. I'm not saying that the razor blades are wrong. I've used some some of those mowers and they work great as well. I'm just saying this was able to handle a little bit heavier load of grass, a little bit thicker grass, a little bit more leaves, a little stick, things of that nature are not gonna totally mess up. Matter of fact, the reason I say this, and this is my fault, not Limo's fault, I had a little tree sapling that I had in my yard and I didn't set up a no-go zone. And I was sitting there watching, I was actually talking to a friend on the phone, I was sitting there watching, and Limo just ran over that little tree sapling for me. And again, that was my mistake, but just to show you, like, it will mow down a tree sapling, okay? And I mean, not a 6-week-old tree sapling, I'm saying something that was about 2 to 3 feet tall, and it just mowed it down. So it's got some significant power, and that's good to see. All right, so what I did, I've got Limo out there mowing, and what I decided to do was just select a small section of the yard. Sometimes when you select a small section or the whole yard, sometimes it'll make a perimeter pass first and then make back and forth passes. This time it just started going back and forth right away. The other thing you'll notice, you can see the dark green line there on my phone. That's the area that it's mowed, so it's going to track the progress of what it's already done. One thing I want to do here is I want to test what it's going to do if something's left in the yard. You know, it's not mapped out to go around this basketball. The basketball just showed up, was left in the yard. What's going to happen? So let's test out the obstacle avoidance feature. That's good. It saw the basketball and it turned around and went the other way. Now, one thing I'm going to be curious about, and I want to see this, like, what about this area? You know, it was making straight passes. Like, is it going to get this area right behind the basketball? Obviously, it's going to avoid the basketball, but I want to see, is it going to leave a gap that's unmowed, or does it know to come back and mow this area? So let's test that out and see. So it just made a pass there. Let's see if it goes back and gets the unfinished pass. So that's good. You know, it's been going, keep moving along the line here. Now it's done moved and it's going back to pick up that area that it missed behind the basketball. Now that it picked up that spot that it had missed because the basketball was in the way, it should come back and finish on the same pattern that it's been going on the whole time. So let's see. So that was great to see that it did like it's supposed to. So let's draw some final conclusions and kind of recap here on Limo and see if I can help you understand it, just give you an honest opinion. I was glad I was able to use it for a good bit before making the video, because I don't think it's necessarily fair just to run it one time and then create a review video about it. And I want to tell you the pros and the cons, you know, just kind of overall. My honest opinion about Limo is I think it is great. Now let me say the things I like about it, and then I'll get to the things that I think they could still improve on. The things I like about it is, one, the amount of land that you can actually cut, the amount of yard, up to 1.73 acres per day. Now I have probably about 3 acres of grass, so the way I look at it is, I think with Limo, the grass I was just cutting there had been about probably 4 days with a lot of rain since it's been mowed, so that's why it's leaving a little bit of clippings. It's going through it fine, it's just leaving some clippings. I would recommend mowing about every other day with it. Now you could mow it every day, maybe every third day. I would probably recommend every other day. So I'm thinking of 3 acres of grass I have, you know, 1.5 acres one day and 1.5 acres the next day. I'd have my whole yard covered. And so that's kind of how I'm using. So the ability to cover a large yard, and a lot of that has to do with the ground speed of it, as well as a 16-inch cutting width, which I know if you're used to a 60-inch zero turn or even a 21-inch push mower, but 16 inches is actually better than a lot of robotic lawnmowers. Other thing I think it sets it apart is the real lawnmower blades, which is great. The other thing is the ability to handle like sticks, leaves. Again, I wouldn't use it to go out there and just mulch up everything, but it's not going to get shut down over a little twig in the yard. And you saw the capability on the hill. I mean, that hillside I've got is a serious hillside, and the fact that it would handle not only the slope, but actually the rough grass and things. Another thing, and maybe not demonstrated as good as I should because it's been 4 days since I cut the grass over there, I believe. But when you start mowing your grass every day or every other day, the way that your lawn looks is fantastic when you're used to mowing it every week or every other week or every 10 days. So really leaves a beautiful cut and can cover a lot of ground. So those are the things I really like about it. I think it's heavy duty. It can be left out in the rain. I mean, the things that I think could still be improved. Well, one more thing. I like that you can go all the way down to 1.2 inches with it up to 4 inches. So that's a pretty wide range in my opinion. If I could offer some improvements to it, the app I think is something that if you've never done it before, it can be a little bit frustrating. Now, this is the 5th robot lawnmower that I've tested out and played with the app, so there's a lot of similarities between them. So just understand, like, there's more videos and stuff being developed. It's one of those things, and I would say it's no matter what robot lawnmower you get, you want to spend the time setting up your map correctly in the beginning. So a lot of times what I want to do is like go trace out my yard and then just hit go and let it go mow. Well, I mean, that's fine, and that's how I got my little tree mowed over from doing that. So go ahead with this particular one, set out the perimeter of your yard, whether you want to do it all together or individual zones, and then map out the areas where you don't want the mower to go. So if you've got a tree in the yard that's got mulch or pine straw, yes, the camera can see those a lot of times, but I would just recommend go ahead and trace out all those obstacles so that you don't have to worry about did the camera see it or did I already have it designated. And then on this particular one, you're going to set up channels. Like, so for me to get from one part of the yard to cross over the driveway to the other part of the yard, I don't want the mower sitting there mowing back and forth on my driveway. There's no grass to grow on my driveway, except maybe a weed or two in the cracks. But I wanted to cross over the driveway, shut the blades off, so I need to create a channel, okay? And you need to understand how that works with the charging station, creating a channel so that it'll dry. You don't want it mowing your charging station. You want it going up to your charging station and recharge itself when it needs to. So anyway, those are some things that I think if you've never done it before, it can be frustrating developing and just on how the app works. But you trace it out and you know, you can trace out the no-go areas and the channel and getting it set up. And then there's things like programming it on a schedule and all that. I haven't done a lot of that because I just come out in the morning, part of my yard I want to mow, and I hit mow and it goes. Those are my opinions, and I wanted to let you know there is a link in the description if you want to go check out Limo One. And to me, it was one that I had caught my eye, seen the ads on Facebook and things, and I was like, wow, I would like to try that one out. And having it and being able to use it, it is a heavy-duty piece of equipment that I find that I'm going to be keeping and using a lot on my lawn, so I could definitely recommend it. I hope this video has been helpful. Leave any questions you got, comments below, and just thoughts on this, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.